Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, where we navigate controversial topics, deep dive into life-changing stories, and engage in meaningful conversation. Join us in embracing the beauty of mindful motherhood. I'm your host, Corinne Adele. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mindful Mama podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have a guest on who is going to be sharing her home birth stories in an apartment, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Chaya. I live in an apartment, and I'm really excited to be here.
So this is just such a fun and interesting subject because a lot of people get really hung up on where they live, specifically in apartments. So I get asked all the time by women, like, can I still have a home birth in an apartment? I'm like, of course, you can birth wherever you want to birth. So I think people are just going to be really excited to hear from you because that's just like one subject that gets brought up over and over again. So did you say you've had two home births in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had birth in my apartment.
Okay.
The first one, I actually moved into this apartment 2 weeks before my home birth.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So where were you moving from?
A few blocks over, but just a
Okay.
smaller apartment.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna kind of give you the stage and you can start wherever you want. And yeah, I'm excited to hear.
Okay, sounds good. Um, I knew I wanted to have a home birth. My mom had 6 home births.
Oh, wow.
When I'm the oldest of 9. So my
Cool.
6 youngest siblings were all born at home. Um, and I had to kind of convince my husband to be on board with having a home birth since
Yeah.
he grew up in a very medically traditional family. Um, I think his biggest worry was cleaning up.
Oh yeah, I literally my husband too. He's like, "How are we gonna handle the mess?" And I'm like, "Why is that your biggest
I
concern?"
think it's every
It's
husband.
so
I
funny.
honestly think it's every husband that they're like, oh, but what about the mess? And
Yeah.
there actually isn't any mess. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, depending on how, like, what kind of birth people have.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, my midwife was amazing,
Yeah.
and her assistant cleaned up everything. Like, you wouldn't have known I gave birth at home.
Yeah, totally. And they do it so fast too. They start a little laundry for you. Like, it's like you didn't give birth.
Literally. Like, I gave birth in the morning this last time, and that night my apartment was as if no one gave birth there. Like, just
Wow.
back to reset.
Awesome. So with your first baby, you were on board with doing a home birth because of your mom, right? That's really awesome. That's another thing that a lot of women kind of worry about is like they're with their first baby. They're
Yeah.
like, should I do it at home? Should I like make sure that I can give birth? And, a lot of women end up going to the hospital. So, did you ever have any of those worries of like, can I do a home birth? Or were you confident being a first time mom giving birth at home?
So for me, thank God, I was pretty confident. I did a lot of prep. I think any home birth comes with a lot of mental prep.
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of books, and it was really a lot of getting my husband on board, getting him educated on the topic of birth, on the topic of, safe birth,
Mm-hmm.
and that birth is not a medical event.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things that was like a change for him,
Mm-hmm.
especially growing up in a medically traditional family. And thank God he really embraced the role of like
Mm-hmm.
home birth dad.
Good.
Um, yeah, like we did a lot of learning together. Um, I think that especially for first time moms, having that support system and being on the same page as your spouse or partner is huge.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and I chose to do the Bradley method
Mm.
as my like birthing method, and I think that was a really good choice, especially as a first time mom, because it brought my husband into the space with me.
Mm.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Bradley method.
So I've heard of it, but I would love for an explanation, especially for our audience. That would be great because especially for first-time moms, I think if they have a little more of like maybe just an outline or like a plan of how to handle labor, that could be really helpful to hear.
Yeah, so the Bradley method is I bought the book, so I don't
Cool.
know if they have it in other formats as well.
Hmm.
It's basically like your partner becomes your doula.
Hmm.
And we read through the book together. There were certain exercises and practice tests and like things like that for us to do that we did all throughout my pregnancy,
Wow.
which was incredible.
Hmm.
And if I'm remembering correctly, like we just like read through the book and kind of did the exercises together. Like we just practiced it over and over again. We got through the whole book by my first pregnancy. By the second one, I think we looked at it once. Um, and that I think was the most incredible thing for me by my first birth,
Hmm.
especially as a first time parent because hiring a doula could be really expensive.
Yeah.
Um, and having my husband be that support person for me was amazing because it's a person I'm already comfortable with.
Hmm.
Um, hearing his voice behind me, like while I was in labor, just was very calming and very grounding for me. And that method really helps and really guides partners with helping their spouses give birth, like helping their wives give birth. It was really cool.
I love that because I feel like a lot of the time, men in birth in general, it doesn't matter where their wife or partner is birthing, they struggle like knowing their place. They don't really know like what to do. And a lot of men kind of need that guidance to be like, this is going to be your role. And how cool is it that, like, I bet that gave him more confidence too going into your birth.
Yeah.
So that's really, really cool. And I love that. So did you guys also do that same method in your second birth? You guys kind of already knew it or?
Yeah. So
Okay.
we kind of already knew it. Also, I think being pregnant with a toddler really gives you a lot less time to
It
focus
does.
on your pregnancy and focus on
For
yourself.
sure. Yeah.
So we kind of relied on the knowledge we already had from
Yeah,
the first
totally.
birth. I think we did like one practice round the
Or
second time around.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but we did do the same method.
Cool. Okay. So, as far as giving birth in your apartment goes, did you ever have those thoughts that most women do? Like, I can't give birth in an apartment, or is this okay for me to birth in an apartment? Like, how did you feel? Or were you just like, no, this is where I'm birthing?
So at first, by my first pregnancy, when I decided I was having a home birth, I was very concerned. I was like, the neighbors are going to hear me.
Yes, that is the
Um,
one thing women
that,
always say.
that was my biggest concern in the beginning.
Yeah.
And actually, with my first pregnancy, I was originally planning on giving birth in my parents' house.
Hmm.
They live nearby, and my mom had six home births, so I knew that like
Yeah.
if I needed to, she would be totally fine with it. We would figure it out somehow. And I ended up being like, no, I could give birth at home in my space. Like, this is my space. This is my,
Hmm.
like, I feel comfortable here. This is like, I wanted my birth to be very, very personal.
Yeah.
And since moving out of my parents' house after getting married and, living in my own space for however long before I gave birth, I just felt so much more comfortable in my own space. And I really wanted to have that feeling during my birth.
Yeah. Like the
And
safety, the
yeah,
intimacy, like
yeah,
this is my space. Yeah.
yeah. And even though, like I mentioned before, we moved into our current apartment literally 2 weeks before I
That is
had my first baby, so it
crazy.
was crazy. It was still incredible. Like I was in my own bed, in my own space, with,
Mm-hmm.
my own four walls around me, and that was really nice. Um,
Cool. So
regarding
you
the
were able to kind of get over that like thought process of like, it's my space. I can birth here.
It was definitely rough.
Yeah.
I was definitely concerned.
Yeah.
Um, I was worried what my neighbors would think, especially having only moved in 2 weeks earlier. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get to know my neighbors yet. I didn't know anyone that lived near me, the people below me, the people around me. Like, I was really worried. Um, but like throughout my pregnancy, I really just kind of like got into this headspace of this is my birth and it's gonna happen the way that I want it to. and no one around me can change that.
I love that mindset. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because we became really close with one of my neighbors after my first birth. And when she found out that I had a home birth, she was like we share a wall with her in the room that I gave birth in.
Oh,
She was like, I
wow.
had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Like
was
she
gonna
was like,
ask
oh,
that.
that's crazy. I like she had no idea I gave birth there. Like she was
Yeah.
like, didn't hear anything. Like, yeah.
It's so funny because in both of my home births, I felt like when I was in the pushing stage that I was being so loud. I like internally, like I felt like I was yelling. And then afterwards, like my husband and photographer were like, you weren't even yelling.
Yeah.
They're
So
like, you weren't even that loud. So I think it's just so funny. Like we can have a certain perception of like how we sounded or how we may sound, and usually it's just not the case. Like it's not
yeah.
really something to worry about. And even if you're roaring like a lion in your labor, what are your neighbors gonna do about it? You're giving birth. Like, I bet you anything they would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool." Like someone's giving birth. I don't know. That's what I think
I would
personally.
think it's pretty cool. I'm not sure
Yeah,
you would, but I would.
totally.
Yeah, I think I was pretty similar. Like I thought I was so loud. I thought I was screaming. And literally after they were like, "No, you were just like you were doing the low
Yeah.
like that's
Hmm.
it."
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to share your birth stories? I would love to hear them.
Sure. I would love to. I would love
Okay,
to
let's go
tell
into
my
it.
birth story. Um, my birth story. I have to remember the first one. It's been a little bit.
How old is your first babe?
She's 2.
Okay.
I woke up in the morning. I woke up at like 7:45, regular day, as if, whatever. I was 6 days overdue. So
Okay.
40 plus 6,
Mm-hmm.
and my water just broke when I got out of bed, which was
Wow.
wild because I was not expecting for that to be the start of my labor. Um, there was meconium in my water. Um, and my midwife came like 2 hours later. She was like, "Okay, I'm here until you give birth. Like, I'm not leaving. There was meconium in the water. We got to make sure everything's okay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for you, like till this baby's out." Um, and I just remember like being in a very calm. Like it was just a very chill day. It was like mid-January and it's cold out. I live in the northeast, so definitely cold.
Yeah.
Um, and like my mom came over, my sister brought breakfast for everyone.
Oh.
Um, Me and my mom ended up going for like a really long walk because we wanted to get labor started a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, especially with the concern of meconium in the water. We went for a walk. I think we got back like 3 hours later.
Oh my gosh, that is a
Um,
long walk.
long walk. Yeah.
Dang.
And we didn't walk far. We walked maybe like a mile away.
Wow.
And the way there, we were just walking regular, normal walk. The way back, I was having full-on contractions the whole way.
Wow.
Like, literally had to stop every 5 minutes to sit down to have a
Hmm.
contraction and then continue walking.
Wow.
Um, and then we literally bumped into like family members on the way back, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I remember like walking really helped me go into labor," and none of them had any idea that I was in
Oh,
like literal
that's
labor at the
crazy.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got back, like, it was just very calm. Like, I just remember it being very low key and like, okay, chill, we're giving birth today. Awesome. Baby's ready to come out.
I love that.
Um, and then I remember like changing when I got home into a labor gown because I bought like the Lila labor gown, which I was so
Oh
excited
yeah.
about.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. And it got me like really excited. And I just like walked up and down my apartment. We did the mile circuit a lot just to
Mm-hmm.
try to get things going. And at one point, I remember telling my midwife, like, I think I'm ready to push. And I was like a little bit worried, especially as a first time mom. I was like, oh, like, could you do like the cervical check and just confirm that I'm like dilated? And she was like, no, if you're telling me you're ready to push, that's
Wow.
like, your intuition is more important than a cervical check.
That's
I
amazing.
really
Wow, that she
appreciated
just
that. Like
gave it back to you.
she really
Yeah.
gave me the power to like feel when I was ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, it seems like you were kind of looking for a way to outsource and be like, "Tell me it's okay." And she's like, "No.
Mhm.
This is all you." So
Literally.
that's really cool.
Literally.
As women, our bodies are constantly evolving, and Indigo Luna gets that. Their beautiful, sustainable clothing made from natural fibers is designed with you in mind. Embracing every curve and change, including the seasons of pregnancy and breastfeeding, rooted in slow fashion, Indigo Luna prioritizes ethical production and timeless designs. As a newly postpartum mother, they really helped me rediscover my confidence and style. Feel good in clothes that honor your body and the planet. Use my link in the show notes to save 10% off your order at indigoluna.com.
And then she got the tub ready. I went in and everything slowed down.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like I was pushing for forever. I was in the tub for 3 hours with pushing contractions.
Wow.
And finally, 3 hours later, my midwife was like, "All right, we got to get out of the tub." I really didn't want to, but we got out, and I just laid down. I ended up laying down like on like my side, as much on my stomach as I possibly could, because I was exhausted at this point.
Yeah.
Like my water broke at 7:45 in the morning. This must have been at like 9 p.m.
Oh,
or
wow.
9:30 even. Like it was a while later, and she actually told me to stop pushing. She was like, she had me lay down on my side and just like try to go to sleep even through the contractions. And I obviously couldn't, because at that point I was in like full on active labor. I
Totally.
was pushing contractions for the last 3 hours that like I was not falling asleep anytime soon because of how much pain I was in. Um, well, actually, I want to take that back. I wasn't in pain. I just remember being a lot of pressure.
Yes. And it's
Um,
intense.
it
It's
was a
like,
lot of pressure.
it's
Yeah.
very intense and very exhausting. Like, it takes a lot of energy.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And she just wanted me to not push. She was like, just breathe. Just, don't let your body do its thing. Don't actively push. So I didn't. And I remember just being out of it at that point. Like I kind of disassociated
Yeah.
for a little bit and let my body do its thing. I felt like that was the only way that I could have been not actively pushing.
Hmm.
Um, and then it must have been an hour of that. I really don't remember the times, like how long things were
Yeah, when
during.
you're in labor land, it is like, I have no idea what's happening.
No
Like,
idea what's happening.
crazy.
No idea how long things are.
Yeah.
Like, if you would have asked me a few days after my birth, I would have been like, yeah, like I was in the tub for a half hour and then I laid down for a half
Yeah.
hour
Totally.
and then the baby was out. And my midwife was like, no, that was 4.5 hours. I was like, oh, okay. That was a really humbling learning experience.
Totally.
That things took a lot longer than I thought they did.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then once I like not woke up but like reassociated with what was going on, it must have been like two pushes later and baby was out.
Wow.
Yeah. Like it was crazy cuz I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And after pushing for literally 4.5 hours, when those last two pushes came, I was like I just remember being so like overcome
Hmm.
with emotions, just with relief,
Yeah.
with everything. Yeah. Yeah. And then my midwife was amazing. She was there for another like maybe 2 hours and everything was cleaned up and everything was good. And she left and I went to sleep with my baby.
I love that. So, how did you feel as a first-time mom delivering your baby at home? Like, how did you feel afterwards? Did you feel accomplished? Like, what was that
Oh
feeling?
my God. I felt really empowered. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I could do anything. Like, I'm on top of the
Yes.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible. Like my first home birth, I remember being like, I did that. Like, what the heck? Like for like a year afterwards, every time I thought about it, I was like, what the heck? I'm so powerful. Like I gave birth at home. That's so cool.
Yeah. Literally, I was on top of the moon. It
That's
was crazy.
amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, how quickly afterwards did you get pregnant with your second baby?
So, 15 months later,
Okay.
I got pregnant. I was not expecting to get pregnant. I kind of got pregnant on birth control.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, that's a story in itself. But
Meant to be. That's
yes,
for sure.
yes, I definitely believe that because my baby is just literally the most perfect thing in the world, and I don't know what I would do without
Yeah.
him. Um, yeah, like I definitely believe that like God has a plan and like this is what
Mm-hmm.
the plan was. And like obviously if I was meant to get pregnant, he was gonna find a way,
Yes,
whether I was on birth control or not.
for sure.
And that's what happened. Um, my second pregnancy was rough.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a lot. There was a lot of emotional healing through it, especially because I
Hmm.
didn't feel like I was ready to be
Yeah.
pregnant again so soon. After my first birth, I didn't have a hard time. I just took a while getting back to myself.
Yeah.
And when my daughter was a year old, I was finally like feeling back and like feeling like I have energy. I can start working out again. I can start taking care of myself again. And then 3 months later, I was pregnant again.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, never mind. Um, um, and I just like, I was a little bit like angry, kind of.
Hmm.
I was very angry with like with God that like what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I just finally feel back to myself and I'm pregnant again. Like now I need to wait another 9 months plus the time to
Yes.
recover to
Yeah.
start
It's
taking
like
care
two
of myself
years, I feel like, the pregnancy and then like a year after.
and the recovery, yeah. And my pregnancy was, like I said, really rough. I felt huge from day one.
Hmm.
I felt like I couldn't move. And it's actually funny because the first trimester you would expect like the nausea and the sickness and everything. My first trimester was the most symptom free. I just
Really?
felt gross.
Yeah.
My second trimester, I had all the symptoms,
Really?
everything. Yeah,
Wow.
it was a little bit backwards. Um, and when I hit my second trimester is also when I stopped nursing my toddler.
Mm.
And I felt really sad about that. I
Yeah.
wish I could have nursed her longer, but it was so painful for me
I
to continue.
know. Oh, that's the worst. I
Yeah.
felt very similar actually with both of my older kids. They didn't really get to choose to wean because I ended up pregnant.
Yeah,
And it was so hard.
yeah, it was really, really hard. And we kind of like did a slow process over a week where at the beginning of the week I was like, okay, love, we're gonna stop nursing now. But if you want to nurse anytime over the next few days, you just come to me, let me know. And she was only 18 months old, but she was very like aware and like fully
Mm.
understood what I was telling her. And like over the next few days, she came to me mostly by bedtime, just like to come cuddle up and nurse a little bit, and then she was fine, and she would go to sleep, go on her own. And about a week later, she was like, she never came back.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really sad. I remember crying for a really long time.
It's almost like,
Um,
dang, she just knew.
yeah,
Wow.
she was
And
like, okay,
kids,
I'm
they're
fine.
like, I feel like we never like give our children enough credit. Like she was so smart. She knew and she's like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
She was like,
Wow.
all right, like it's not my time anymore. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I kind of wanted to be and come back. Yeah, and she was actually great my whole pregnancy.
Hmm.
I think she just kind of like knew that like my body was doing different things and like I wasn't having a very easy time. And
Hmm.
she just made herself become a very easy toddler,
Wow.
which I think is the biggest blessing for myself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, she was amazing. Um, yeah, I
Cool.
kind
So, do you want to
of,
go into the birth of
yeah,
your son?
absolutely.
So, you gave birth in the same apartment twice? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
same apartment, different rooms, but same
Oh,
apartment.
fun.
My daughter's birth was actually in her bedroom.
Oh, that's
Before there was
special.
anything in there, it was just boxes.
Wow. How cool.
Um, and my son's birth was in our living room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because my daughter has her bedroom
Yeah.
set up and all that, and I was like, okay, I'm not interrupting her space to give birth there again. Um, yeah, by my second birth, so I kind of had two due dates. We didn't really know which one was accurate, and I was kind of okay with that. I was like, okay, whenever baby's ready, he's gonna come. Like,
Right.
I'm not relying on the due date. It's just
Was
nice.
it based off of the whole birth control situation where you
Yeah.
just kind of like didn't
So,
know?
so not really based on the birth control situation, but more based on because so after I had my first baby, my period kind of came back different than it ever was before. Before ever getting pregnant, my period was like the most consistent thing about my life. It
Mm.
came every single 28 days like clockwork.
Wow.
And then afterwards, it kind of stretched to be like a 35-day cycle.
Yeah.
Um, so it was kind of, I had two due dates because it was based on the first day of my last period, but then also based on my later ovulation times.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. It kind of like didn't really, there was no like official date that I
Right.
was like due.
Right.
Um, and because of that, I kind of got a little anxious towards the end of my pregnancy that I was like, oh, am I 39 weeks or am I 38 weeks?
Right.
Like, what's going on? And the due dates were literally only a week apart, but that discrepancy just kind of made me very like high alert
Right.
almost.
Did you use the
Uh,
same midwives this time too?
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. I love my midwife. She is incredible.
Hmm.
And anyone who comes to me like in my community and asks about her, like needs a reference, I'm like, yes, talk to me. I
Mm,
will tell you all the good things about
I
her.
love that.
Yeah. Um, I went to a reflexology session when I was around either 38 or 39 weeks. Um, and I was just like done with being pregnant. Like I told her, I'm so excited to meet this baby. I'm so excited to be a mom of two. I'm so excited to have a second kid. I can't be pregnant anymore. I'm done. I need the baby out. And she was like, that's such an interesting, like, she really like pinpointed certain things that I never really realized consciously throughout my pregnancy that like I had like very conflicting feelings. Like I was so excited to be a mom of two and so excited to meet my baby, but at the same time, hated my pregnancy.
Hmm.
I was like, get out, leave, like right now. Um, and she really made me aware of just the fact that I needed to relearn the newborn stage with my second child. And since then, I've seen it a few times in like in different parenting courses and things that I've read and whatever that say that every child needs to be treated like their own individual self.
Oh my
No
gosh.
child is
So
gonna be the same.
I felt that way with my second. It's so crazy that you're talking about this with your second. I felt that way too. Like almost like this is my second first child, you know? Because like when you're very first learning to how to be a mom, it's like all so new. And I feel very similar giving birth again and giving birth again. Like there are definitely things you have under your belt, but like you said, they're a completely different human being. Like their needs are different, their temperament is different, like everything about them, the way they
Oh, yeah.
breastfeed, everything. It's like you're doing
Everything is different.
you're a first time mom again. Like
Yeah,
it's yeah, that's
yeah.
so interesting because I've never really heard anyone else speak about it like that before, and I just resonate with that because I felt that way.
Yeah, it's amazing and it's actually like literally that like treating each child as if they're a brand new child like with no information from
Yeah.
before.
Mm-hmm.
It's what pushed me. I started a blog right after I gave birth.
Oh, cool.
And it's what pushed me to do that because I was like people don't know that each child is different and like I wanted to document like the differences and just different parts of the things that I was seeing that were different. And it's
Mm,
pretty cool.
I love that.
And one of the things that the reflexologist told me while she was working on me was, first of all, to treat this child different, not different, but just as a new child
Yeah.
than my first, because my first child was extremely advanced in everything. And it feels like I'm bragging when I say that, but
I
like
I know. I feel
every
similar when I talk about my kids. I'm like, every mom says this, but I feel like I'm actually telling the truth.
exactly. And she was just she did everything early. She was rolling
Hmm.
over at 2 months. She was like literally she was
Dang.
walking at 10 months.
Wow.
Like literally everything she did was early. And this reflexologist was like, I feel that energy from your previous birth, from
Hmm.
your previous child, that she was just like doing everything as it was supposed to be on time and, early even. And this baby's a chiller. Don't expect
Hmm.
the same from him. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, like that's such a weird thing to pinpoint. And like now that he's born and now that he's here and it's been a few months, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like,
Wow.
hey, he's 3 months and he hasn't rolled yet, and that's fine. He's taking his
Hmm.
time and he'll roll when he's ready.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's really cool to see how like I'm relearning patience almost.
Hmm.
Like it's okay. He's gonna do it when he's ready. He's not the first child, and he's gonna do everything in his own time.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and then when it came to my actual birth, I actually this is a little bit of a more fun story than the first one. The first one was just very long. Um, this one was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, thank God. I I went into prodromal labor on New Year's Eve, and my incredible midwife drove 2.5 hours to come in
Hmm.
because we thought I was having the baby early. Um, and then we ended up realizing that it was prodromal, and it was really frustrating, but she literally like did not say a word. And like I know how frustrating that must have been, that like she drove 2.5 hours on New Year's Eve when she could have been with her family
Hmm.
celebrating, and like she just hung out at my apartment with us while I was having contractions. And she literally did not say a word or give any kind of inkling that she was frustrated.
That just goes to show like her character and her integrity as a
Yeah,
midwife.
literally. And New Year's this year, I think, was on a Tuesday. I'm forgetting. But a week later, like the following Wednesday evening, I started having prodromal labor again and thought I was
Hmm.
her. And I told her, and she was like, okay, we're going to see how long the contractions last. Text me if they get worse. Fine. Wednesday night, I went to sleep. Thursday morning, I woke up and I was still having contractions. But I was able to sleep through the night, which was nice. Um, and I just let her know like, hey, I'm still having contractions. They're still not super painful, but they were close together, but they weren't so painful. Um, I ended up going out with my mom. We went to Target, which is our favorite place to aimlessly walk around for hours on
I
end.
went to Target in labor with Florence. I love that.
I think it's the best place to go when you're in labor because it's like, oh right, I needed that, I needed
Yeah.
that. You just buy all the things you forgot about before. Um, and then after after Target, I realized like, oh, the contractions are getting stronger. So we ended up heading home. We picked up my daughter from school, went over to my parents' house for a little bit so that she could hang out there. And I ended up actually going to lay down and take a nap.
Hmm.
And when I woke up from my nap at around like 5:30 ish, like I stood up and my water broke.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like this
This
is
is
actually
for
happening.
real. Yeah.
I'm not in prodromal labor again.
I bet
Um,
that felt so relieving to like
yes.
know for sure.
Yes, because I was having prodromal labor on and off all week.
Hmm.
It was rough.
Yeah, I've never experienced that, but I know women who have, and they say it's like such a mind game and so exhausting, and sometimes can like steal the joy a little bit out
Yeah,
of your labor experience because you're constantly thinking you're in labor and you're not.
yeah. And I literally just had to keep reminding myself. I think this is something that's really relevant actually to anyone who is, pregnant or like due soon, that I just kept reminding myself that my baby will come when he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And prodromal labor is just him getting into the right position, getting
Yes.
ready. It's getting my body ready,
Mm-hmm.
all those things. And that really helped me sit with it much, I guess, a little bit like easier than, oh, like every time I went into prodromal labor, I was like, instead of expecting it to be like, oh, I'm getting labor, I'm giving birth soon, it
Hmm.
was like, okay, like when the baby's ready, he'll come, he'll be here.
Yeah.
And until then, he's just getting himself and my body ready.
Right. Like it's not like it's for nothing. They're not like
Exactly.
practice or your body just being whatever. Like every single contraction you're having is for a purpose, even if it's just to like strengthen your uterus, or like you said, maybe your baby needed help getting into a better position. So your body's like, okay, we're going to take it slow and do it over a week plus or however long it was to kind of shimmy that baby into the right position. So
Exactly.
I love that you mentioned that because it's so true. Like every contraction you have is worth something and it's for something. It's not just a waste. So I
Exactly.
like that you
And
pointed that
I
out.
feel like there's not really much emphasis on that,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to people being in prodromal labor, especially
Yeah.
for days on end. And it's just a good thing to mention.
Totally. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, After my water broke, I went home. I was at my parents' house still because I was laying down there. So me and my husband went home and I texted my midwife like, "Hey, just my water broke. Just letting you know, like the contractions were still like not super painful, not much going on, like very very early labor contractions." Um, and she was like, "Okay, I'll come over in a little bit. Like we'll see later." Because my contractions at that point had been going strong all day. Um, and my husband, excuse me, my husband was actually in school. He's in college still.
Oh, wow.
And he was supposed to take a final that night.
Oh my gosh.
He was supposed to take two finals that night.
Oh no.
And he was like, okay, I'm just going to message the professor and let him know that I'm going to take the finals late. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
um, And then, so my midwife came a little bit later. My husband was helping me through the contractions as we had practiced in the Bradley method,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever we could remember. And we pulled out the book, and he was, like reading from the book for me, and it was really great. We turned on some music, um, and I was just we're doing the mile circuit, doing all the things to see if this labor was going to get going. My midwife came, and everything just kind of like was very consistently slow.
Hmm.
And it felt slow, but it didn't feel like it was droning on. It just kind of felt like this is where I was supposed to be right now,
Wow.
which was a very different feeling than my first birth, where it felt slow, but it felt like it was going forever.
Right. Because like you were pushing forever and you were thinking you were near the end, but it was like it kept going.
Exactly. Like here, the long part was more in early labor,
Hmm.
so it was a lot more bearable. Um, and my mom ended up coming over a little bit later with some food for dinner. Um, I ate an entire hamburger while I was in labor, and my midwife actually mentioned after, she was like, I don't think you were actually like fully in labor yet. You were just probably in like very early labor at
Yeah.
that point because someone who's in active labor cannot eat a whole
Yeah.
hamburger.
You're like nauseous.
Yeah, like you're not eating anything at that point,
Yeah.
like water maybe.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah, and we all ate. I went to lay down for a little bit. I went to sleep. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with some stronger contractions. I walked around my apartment for like an hour. My midwife was like sleeping on the couch. She was like
Oh
hanging out
wow.
because she felt like this was it, like my baby was coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
So she just hung out. Um, and at like 3-ish, I ended up going back to sleep. I was like, okay, like this is taking a really long time. At some point, I did go into the shower and like just let the contractions happen while the water was like hitting my back,
Mm-hmm.
which was amazing, especially because in the beginning of my labor, I was having back labor.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
how would you describe how it feels to have back labor? Because for me, I feel like I've had back labor in my labors because my babies like to be sunny side up. And for me, it's like this crazy burning sensation in my back and around my hips. So I'm
so
curious how you would describe how it feels.
I would say similar. Like it felt different than my first birth, because my first birth I was having contractions, but they were very like center focused and very much in the front.
Mm-hmm.
Here the contractions, I felt like they were wrapping around my whole uterus, and I was feeling it the strongest in my lower back.
Interesting. That's how I felt too. Like it almost like when the contraction it would start kind of like low in the front, but then it would wrap around as it peaked.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I really think that that's why my labor was so not, it wasn't so long, but I feel like that's why I was having so much prodromal labor, because my baby was getting itself into the right position, because
Right.
it didn't come out sunny side up. It
Mm-hmm.
came out the right way. And like I just spent some time in the shower when I was having that back labor, and that was super relieving. Like that was amazing. Um, and my husband and I actually walked around our building. We live on the sixth floor.
Hmm.
So we walked like up and down each hallway, and then we would go down a floor and walk up and
Oh,
down the hallway,
nice.
and all the way down to the bottom and then all the way back up. And at one point, someone came out and she was like, "Are you guys lost? Like, do you need some help?" And I was like, "No, I'm in labor. I'm giving birth." She was like, "Oh, congrats. Okay." And I was like,
Oh my
"Okay."
gosh.
It was funny. Um, yeah, and like we did that a few times, and that was actually before I even went to sleep originally. Um, and I went back to sleep after waking up at 2 with like those stronger contractions. I went back to sleep at around like 3, and at 5 I woke up screaming, and I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
"Oh my God, this is it. This is what's going on. Like, I'm in so much pain." Um, and I woke up my husband and I was like, Nachi, I need you. I need you right now. Like this is awful. It was horrible. And I had like about an hour's worth of contractions before we called my mom back, because after she brought dinner, she went home to
Mhm.
sleep because we didn't know what was like how long it would take. So she came at around like 6. Um, and sometime between like 6 and 7:30, I remember just repeating like, I don't want to do this anymore. I am in so much pain. Take me to the hospital and give me an epidural.
And that's
I am so
right at the
done.
peak.
I was in full on transition at that point.
Yes.
And my mom was like, let's talk about this. And I was like, I don't want to fucking talk about this. And my midwife came and she was like, "What's going on?" And my mom was like, "Oh, well, she's in a lot of pain. She keeps mentioning going to the hospital to get an epidural." And my midwife was like, "What about going in the tub?"
Oh
And I was
yeah.
like, "Oh, the tub.
Oh yeah, I can
Right.
do that.
Let's do that." And I remember just feeling like she brought this like new option that kind of put me in a trance,
Oh
where I was
wow.
like, "Oh, yes, let's do that."
Yeah.
Yeah, and she like got the tub ready. It took a little bit of time cuz to fill it up. Um, and like 45 minutes later, I would say I was in the tub. And like the minute I got in the tub, everything was like calm. And I was like, okay, I can do
Hmm.
this. I'm fine.
Yeah.
No need for a hospital. No need for a girl. I'm okay. Forget everything I said in the last hour. Um, and literally, like when I got in the tub, I just remember feeling at peace,
Hmm.
like just very relaxed and very at ease. And even though like I started pushing contractions, like one contraction before getting in the tub, and once I got in the tub, I was just like, okay, I can do this. And it's actually crazy because I love affirmations and I'm all for thinking them and writing them, but I never was the person who said affirmations out loud to
Hmm.
myself. And during my labor, like during the pushing contractions, I just was like, I can do this. And I was like, my
Hmm.
body can do this. And I said it out loud and I was like, oh my God, I
Wow.
don't know who's saying this right now,
That's
but it's
cool.
helping. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And literally throughout the rest of my pushing contractions, I just kept saying like affirmations out loud of like, my body can do this. I can do this.
Wow.
Um, like this is what I want. My baby and I can do this together. Like, all those like really helpful, really affirming, positive affirmations.
That's so cool.
Um, and baby was out like an hour later.
Wow.
It was really cool.
Dang. So, did you had two water births then?
So actually, neither of them were born in the tub.
Okay, so you got out of the tub
I
then
got out of the
later.
tub by both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what positions were you in when you were delivering?
So by the first one, I was on my back, but that was kind of out of necessity because I was so tired.
Yeah,
And like my mom and my husband were holding my legs because I literally couldn't even do that myself. I was exhausted.
totally.
And by the second one, I was on all fours, which was
Oh,
actually
wow.
significantly easier. I 10 out of 10 recommend that position for birthing.
Interesting. See,
Yeah.
instinctively have like been on my back, but a little bit propped up with both of my home births. And something that's just interesting to me is we kind of like demonize that position a little bit, and it makes sense because like gravity helps you get your baby out. But like delivering on your back isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like my body likes to be leaned back and in a propped up position, but I'm still kind of like leaned back
Yeah. So
because
that's how
I
it was at
feel
first.
like grounded in that position. I feel like I have my bearings, that I have things that I can like push my legs into, and that's just where my body likes to be.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to say that because I feel like a lot of women like they're always like I don't want to be on my back, and it's like, well, totally,
It's
I
not
get
so
that,
bad.
but it doesn't have to be bad.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like in a very intense setting is
oh
when it
yeah.
can be bad.
Well,
Like,
and when you're in the hospital and you're on your back for hours and hours and hours,
exactly. Like
that is an issue.
that's where we're talking about an issue. I feel like
Yes.
at home when you're propped up by pillows and
Yep.
you have your support system
Yeah.
surrounding you,
Hmm.
it was honestly kind of like, I mean, for me it was out of necessity because like I said, I was
Yeah.
exhausted and like I literally could not hold my own weight at that
Hmm.
point. But it wasn't like it wasn't bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So, how was your postpartum period being a mom of two?
So this, I think this is so controversial based on like my friends that have two kids,
Hmm.
but you tell me like if you had similar experiences. My second time around was 1,000 times easier
Hmm.
than the first time.
Yeah.
The first time I had no idea what I was doing. I did not know what self-care looked like. I was reliant on everyone around me for
Hmm.
weeks on end. I felt like I couldn't get back to myself for months. Like literally 12 months in is when I started like feeling like I could finally take care of myself.
Yeah.
And this time I definitely prioritized self-care in the early weeks. And I was like, I am not leaving my bed for the first week
Yeah.
of postpartum. I need to be catered to in every regard.
Yeah.
Um, like every time I showered, I would make sure that like someone was like right outside. Like just I need to chat. I
Yeah.
wanted to chat while I was showering. You're gonna be there for
Hmm.
me now. Um, and I really didn't leave in that first week. I think I left once to go to a lactation consultant,
Hmm.
and other than that, I really like did not leave my bed.
I think that is like the biggest key to having a really good postpartum experience. Um, because so with my son, I left day 3, went to Target, went to the chiropractor, went to the pediatrician, and I was like, I'm gonna bounce back. I'm gonna be this mom who just like does it all. And my postpartum period with him, like that, the first couple of months were so hard. My healing took forever, my mental health, it was so hard because it's all new, but also like I didn't know, like you're saying, the self care part. Like, you just birthed the whole human. You need to be in bed and taken care of and just be with your baby. Like, it is so incredibly important.
Yeah,
Um, I got a little bit better with my second baby, but I was doing the stairs too much. I was going up and down the stairs more than I should have. So it did take me third time's the charm with my third baby to really lock it in and be like, I'm going to be in my room for 2 weeks
yeah,
minimum.
Yeah, it's so
And
important.
yes, it's just like
It's so important.
sometimes you get a little cabin fever and you're like, ugh, I just kind of want to leave my room, and that's fine. But it is just, there's something about staying in bed and letting yourself rest that can just change the trajectory of the rest of like the year, honestly.
Literally, literally.
Because, yeah, I feel very similar to you. And like, it took me a long time to get back to myself with my first. And then I was getting more of the hang of it with my second. But with my third, I was good. I'm like, I feel great, you know?
Yeah,
So,
literally. And that's literally how I feel now. And like with my first, it took so long. I couldn't leave the house. I everything I did was like energy and
yeah.
effort and just
Yes.
exhaustion. And
And
now I have a
overthinking
toddler
it.
and a newborn. And I'm like, oh, I have energy. I could leave. I'm
Yeah,
good.
totally.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's also so great because you were worried about this, you know, because you got pregnant quicker than you expected. And you're like, I
Yeah.
just got back to myself and now I have to do this again. But
And
here
I
you are,
that was one of the things
you're
that actually
four
pushed me.
months
3 months.
postpartum.
Actually, almost 3 months postpartum.
Okay, so almost 3 months postpartum. And
Yeah.
you're like, I feel great.
Yeah.
Wow,
Thank God.
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that having that experience the first time where I really couldn't, like, I felt like I couldn't get back to myself for so long really pushed me to take care of myself in those earlier weeks of
Mm-hmm.
not leaving my bed, having a meal train set up, having, just relying on my family a lot, relying on my
Yeah.
siblings a lot. My daughter goes to school every day, and we set up like a little system where
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was really important for her to sleep at home, because I didn't want her to be like displaced from her natural setting just because I had a baby.
Right.
And we kind of, the first 2 nights she didn't sleep at home, she slept at my parents'. But after that, we kind of set up this system where my husband would, get her ready in the morning, bring her to school, and then she would finish school at 3. So he picked her up, and at 4, when my siblings finished school, they would come over, pick her up, and bring her to my parents' house until bedtime. And that was really helpful because it gave me that hour with her where I was able to just leave the baby with my husband and just
Mm-hmm.
focus on my time with her.
Yeah.
And thank God that really helped with, like, we're not really dealing with much jealousy.
Hmm.
She genuinely loves her brother. Like, she's obsessed with him.
Sweet.
She named all of her dolls the same name as him. It's,
That's so
it's really
cute.
funny. Yeah.
Oh.
Um, and I'm really thankful that I took that opportunity and like really just relied on the people around me for those first
To
weeks.
accept help. And did you ever feel guilty about it? Because I feel like a lot of moms struggle with like the guilt of accepting the help.
So that's how I felt with the first time I was
Hmm.
postpartum. This time I was like, I'm not feeling guilty.
Hmm.
I'm not feeling shamed for accepting help. And I actually took it even a step further that I relied not just on my family, but I relied on my friends. I have
Hmm.
I mean, most of my friends have moved out of the community that I live in right now, and I mean, I'm also hoping to move out of the community that I currently live in. But I have a few friends that still live here, and I really relied on them for, like, one of them would just come over and bring lunch
I love that.
during those early weeks, and she would just come and hang out, and I was really appreciative for that because that really helped me feel a sense of normalcy,
Hmm.
but still taking care of myself, like not leaving the house, not leaving my room, just being in my space and still having lunch with a friend.
Yeah.
And that was really really helpful. Yeah, I
That's
think
great.
I think in general for new moms, especially first time moms, we need to learn how to accept help and ask for it when we need it.
Yes,
It's a
and
huge
really prepare for the postpartum period. I think first time moms in general were so focused on the baby and like what to buy for the baby and like what car seat and bassinets and like all of that. And then the things that get neglected are the hardest things. So like breastfeeding usually gets neglected because no like they don't know to like get a lactation consultant within the first couple of days and
Yeah.
do several appointments, and like meal trains. They're lucky if someone sets it up for them, right? And then, yeah, just knowing that like you need to rest. You're not going to be the super mom. Please don't try to be. You already are
Yeah.
a super mom because you just gave
Exactly.
birth.
Give birth.
Yes. So I love the focus on that. And honestly, you make me want to do an entire episode just talking about that and what, like, as a
The
first time
postpartum
mom,
period.
yes, how to
Yeah.
prepare for it, what's
So
important.
important. One of my friends actually said a line that stuck with me during my first pregnancy. So she had her baby is like 6 months older than my oldest, and she said, labor is one day, parenting and having a child is forever.
Mm,
And we prepare so much with a focus on giving birth and
yeah.
labor and what the day of your labor is going to be like and contractions and pushing and all of this. And that's the day when you have the most support.
Yeah.
After that, you don't have as much support. And we need to really be focusing during pregnancy on what we're going to do after
Yeah.
and
There
how
needs
that's
to be
going
a
to
lot
look.
more focus on that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually like I, on my blog that I mentioned before, I started posting different things about like the postpartum period that I'm really like focusing on sharing literally this, literally like what you need to be focusing on during pregnancy so that you can have a better postpartum period.
I love that.
It's so
So,
important.
if you want to share that, I would love to put the link down below if you're
Absolutely.
totally if you're open to it,
For
so that
sure.
other people can read through your blog. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, is there anything else that you want to mention before we end this episode?
Let me see. I wrote a few things down.
Sure.
I'll just
Yeah.
quickly skim through it. Um, Well, I wrote like five things that I would share, like
Okay.
as like my main things of
Yeah.
like what the takeaway should be.
Mm-hmm.
Prepping your space like it's sacred is huge.
Mm.
Your space is yours.
Yeah.
If you like candles, light candles. If you
Yes.
want music, put music. Like
Yes.
really keep the lights low, get a lamp. Like all those things, your space needs to be your space. And I think that that's the most important thing, especially giving birth in an apartment or at home in general. Um, and I mean, where I live, it's super noisy out. Like I live in a city, and just having my music playing and some candles and just a very calm environment is so important.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. With my third pregnancy, as I was prepping for my labor, I kept talking about this idea of like romanticizing your birth. And exactly what you're saying, like create your space, allow it to be sacred. Buy the twinkly lights, collect candles, get the
yeah,
affirmations, buy yourself a special robe. Like you were saying, you got that labor gown that you
yeah,
were so I did the same
exactly.
thing. I picked out like a laboring outfit. It just like brings
So, yeah,
sparks of joy and it just makes things exciting and sacred and fun. So,
yeah. And I think for people giving birth in an apartment, don't worry about the noise. Just don't worry about it. Like that's someone else's problem.
because if you think about it, what's the worst that could happen?
The
Someone
worst, like
hears
literally,
you?
like, yeah, exactly. And then what?
Yeah, and then what? They can't do
Yeah,
anything about it. It's legal to give birth at home.
yeah,
Like it's okay.
yeah. And honestly, like there was one point where I was a little bit worried that like in a building there's like cutoff times where you're allowed to have
Oh,
like loud
gotcha.
noise.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, someone's gonna call the cops on me. And like literally what we're just talking about, like, then what?
Yeah.
And I was telling my husband, like, okay, and if someone calls the cops on me, then what? I tell
Right.
the cops that I'm giving birth.
Yeah.
Now what? They're leaving. They're not staying and sticking around.
Yeah.
They're not penalizing me for giving birth at home.
Right.
Okay, so the cops came. It adds to the birth story.
I love it.
And I think the most important thing for any birth is really just trusting that your body was made for this.
Yeah.
Like women were built to give birth. We can do
Yes.
this. Whether it's at home or in a hospital or a free birth or whatever kind of birth someone wants to have, we can do it.
Yeah. Well, I am so thankful that you wanted to come on and share this story. I think it's going to give a lot of women just like relief and be able to hear like it's possible. It's
Yeah,
possible
it's
to do
definitely
this.
possible. Thank you so much for having me on. This was
Yes,
so
of
sweet.
course. And that concludes today's episode. If you found value in this conversation or resonate with it in any way, I'd love for you to leave me a review on whatever platform you're listening in on and share about it on social media. Your support means the world. For more content like this, you can follow me at Corinne Adele on all platforms. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.